thank you all for attending the session, and I want to thank the committee to invite me to speak over here. So the sessions I'm going to be covering about is rise of the innovation administrators, basically to be the Power Platform admins over there. So that's what I'll be covering. But just a little bit about me is who I am and what do I do. I come from an infrastructure background, and I always make sure I call that out because I didn't come from a developer background. I used to, my first line of career ever was racking and stacking servers. So I come from that infrastructure background, and so someone like me can, work with the Power Platform without any developer knowledge. That I'm pretty confident that anybody who is, interested can also pick that up. I have been deeply plugged into Power Apps since April 2016, which was back when it was in preview. So I've actually seen this entire product grow, and firsthand, gave the product group some feedback, insights, and seen this thing grow. My interest actually includes the entire Power Platform, which includes Power BI, which was the first family member, then Power Apps and Power Automate, and then came the Power Virtual Agent. So I always look at it as a holistic approach because there's always gaps when if you work on one silo to just one product, you always find some gaps over there. But when you work at it all together, it kind of fills everything up. And then AI and machine learning is something that I'm always interested in because that just helps automate a lot of things and takes out mundane day-to-day tasks away from the people over here. In addition, that's my Twitter handle over there. And then I also have a YouTube channel. So if you just go to YouTube and type in Daniel Christian Power Apps, you can find my channel over there. I think I have like over 90, 95 videos over there, and they're all free. So if you've got any questions or if you've got any, things that you want to see, I've got walkthroughs over there. So feel free to join my Twitter handle or subscribe or view my videos over there. Outside my technical world, I do musical holiday lights as a hobby. So that's just a video I had taken from last year. That's my home and my music over there. There's actually a radio transmission. I have an FM transmitter over there, and it's not unlikely for having up to 10 cars parked outside my house, and they dial into my radio station and they just enjoy the show. Usually the entire show lasts for about an hour. So, what can I say? I work hard and I play hard, and that's just what I do during the holiday season. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do today. So all the Power Platform citizen developers need, for all the Power Platform citizen developers, we need innovative administrators. And I say that for a very specific reason, because there's just a big upload burst of citizen developers over here, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of innovative administrators, which means the people who have to take up that administrative role of owning Power Platform over there. Everybody wants to be a citizen developer, and that's great. I mean, I applaud all of the people over there. In fact, I encourage that. I myself am one of them, but I'm also asking for people to say, wait, along with the fun part of building the apps, people need to take over that responsibility of administering it as well. I did not want to go with the term of just being an admin or an administrator, because if our citizen developers are so they think differently. They don't think as how we would expect a developer to do, because they're very hands-on, very business people. We want the administrators to be that way as well, because they need to know that these are the requirements that the developers need, the citizen developers. This is all that they need. So we need to make sure that we don't get in the way of them. But at the same time, we've got to set everything right on the Power Platform such that things are secure, things are available, licenses and everything are taken care of. So that's why I want to use that term as innovative administrators, because we got to think outside the box for that. So that's my new slogan. Feel free to take it and talk about it. But I've been trying that for a while. I've been getting some positive feedback, but I'm going to play around with that for a while. So basically, these are the few things that I want to cover. Is that what does it take to be administrator or innovative administrator? And before I jump into the actual details of it, I want to cover these very important things. Technical thing first is you must have the Power Platform admin role. That's a requirement. If you're going to be the Power Platform administrator, what you have to do is go to either who owns your Office 365 admin or your Azure admin and say that, hey, this is my role. For whatever reason, you or your manager does that, and you've got to get that role. And I've put that number one on the list is because I've spoken to quite a few people who actually think that they are admins because they have got so many apps, they've got so many environments. And when I go and say, okay, then they have a question about something, all right? And I said, let's take a look to see if you've got access to that or if you are able to see that. And I said, let's go to your Power Platform admin place over there. And says, oh yeah, I can go over there. See, I'm an administrator. And I says, I really don't think that because you're not even seeing, all the admins over there, and then all the environments and apps and everything. So basically, depending on the size of the company, some people I've spoken to literally just picks up the phone and calls their Office 365 admin and then realizes, oh, I actually don't have that role, and then they go and get it. So that's the first thing that you need is you need that Power Platform admin role. The other thing I say is that preferably that citizen, the innovative administrator, is or was a citizen developer. And that really helps because remember, the whole point of this is we don't want to get in the way of the citizen developers, but we want to do all the plumbing as far as security and as far as access and privileges goes. We want to set all of that up. And in order to know all that is needed, being a citizen developer, at least having a little bit of insight of how that works really helps because then first of all, what all is needed. And then secondly, what all I've got to take care of for everything to work. So that's going to kind of keep that in mind over there. Now, if you are not interested in being a citizen developer, I highly recommend doing the App in the Day workshop. It's free. You can go ahead and download it. It's also self-paced, so you can just download it, maybe spend an hour a day building the app or something. But that just gives you a idea of what all does it take to actually build an app over there. Next thing is understand the entire application lifecycle management. And I don't want this to just be the ALM that you see tied to the Power Apps, but because Power Apps, if you go to their websites and blogs, you actually see that there is an ALM or application lifecycle management process over there. What I wanted you to focus on is the entire ALM or application lifecycle management, more holistic approach, is from the beginning, from the time that an app is built, or even the app is in the designing phase by a department to the time that the app really takes off. You want to understand that focus of the app. Say if you are a mid-sized to a large company over there, you start noticing trends that there's a lot of apps coming in from this one department over there. Start seeing how many apps have come up over there. Maybe it's time to merge some apps. Maybe it's time to give up some apps, so on and so forth, or take an existing app by line of business, move it up to the enterprise level. And at the time comes where that department actually has too many apps, and you've noticed from your analytics that, hey, this one app just took off and is constantly being used, but this 5 other apps are not. What happens is these 5 other apps were actually replaced by that one app, which means it's time now to sunset that 5 apps over there. So you need to understand this entire approach. And that's why it's one of the very important things from being the administrator over there. Be aware of latest announcements, and a great place to do that is two places. Go to either of the communities, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and over there they'll actually have a blog section where the product group people go ahead and post those announcements. The reason I recommend doing that, I personally do it, is see what these new features are coming out. Because if you've got any app building, planning which is going on, and there could be a lot of, for that one little feature, there's going to be a lot of workaround process or manual process to just get that one feature. In that new features that are coming out, instead of making this manually, it's going to be an automated out-of-the-box solution available. So you just save your team members so much time by just keeping up with the latest announcements. And as an admin, the announcements could be a lot towards how this helps from an administrative standpoint. Can you make your grouping or things more granular level? How much more analytics is available? Things like that. And then finally, maintain healthy relationships with the Azure admins and the Dynamics 365 admins, because the Power Platform is so deeply integrated into both of these, specifically the Azure services. In fact, two of them I'll show you over here in the demo. And the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, that they are the actual plumbing when it goes to the fundamentals, Dynamics 365, security roles and everything is all the same. So in fact, a Azure admin by default also becomes a Power Platform admin, and so on and so forth. So maintain healthy relationships because they might need your help for something when it comes to assistance with building an app or owning an app or something like that. But you also will need their help in the future. So have healthy relationships when it comes to at least these two admins over there. So Now I'm going to talk about these 10 things, and these are all the 10 things we'll go through. Since I only have an hour for this one, I might speed up certain of these certain of these points, and I'll slow down on certain of them. One of the things I do like to call out is that these 10 things, will change. In fact, they might change tomorrow because I kind of keep up with all these trends and technologies going on for the entire Power Platform. And today you might see these 10 options over there. And then say next week you say, oh, Daniel's speaking on the innovative administrators. I've already heard that session before. It says that session altogether might be completely different because these 10 items might change over there. So I want to call that out is that this is an ever changing, ever evolving session because it all depends on what other new features coming out. But as you see on the top of the list, and I pretty much will have this on the top for as long as I can think of, is the data loss prevention. And when it comes to the data loss prevention, I usually use, in fact, I always use the KISS method, and I describe it, when it comes to differentiating, I use the Microsoft versus non-Microsoft. So the KISS method is I keep it simple, stupid. That is the whole concept of the KISS method over there. And then I also talk about how we can differentiate the data connectors, because right, if you're familiar with Power Apps, every app, every flow, every Power BI report all comes with using data connectors. And when it comes to data connectors, that's where you decide how those policies are going to be, which of them are approved business policies, which are not approved business policies. And the new feature which was released not too long ago is the option to even block a data connector, because that was not there before. That was actually one of the things I had asked for a long time ago, is that I can have environments, I can segregate the policies of the environments, but the only two things I could do is I could go ahead and put it as a business and a non-business category. So if you are in the business category, then all the connectors which fall in this one business category can work. And then on the vice versa side, if you're on the non-business categories, then they will also work. The two obviously can't talk to each other, but if you are connected to either one of those groups, they still work. And that was not enough. I will say that there are some connectors I absolutely do not want them in any of the categories. I want them blocked. And so that feature was not available at that time, but they went ahead and released that. So let me kind of switch gears a little bit and just show you a little bit of what I was talking about over there. So I'm going to come to one of my tenants over here. Yeah, it's a good one. And I've logged into the Power Apps section over here. And right now into the Power Apps, when you log in, this is what it looks like. Let me jump to another tenant. We can use that. So this is what my Power Apps looks like. It's in my tenant over here. And now when I go into the top right, since I am the administrator for that, I'm a Power Platform admin. I come to the admin center. And one of the first things I see is I am able to see all the environments. I know that for a fact because I have access to these environments over here. Now, in the Power Platform Admin Center, on the left side, this is what the data policies look like. And this is actually initially what it used to just be called as DLP, but now it's just summed it up as data policies. In fact, at one point when you come in and you actually apply data, you just click on the data policy, you'll still see the DLP over there. So they've still put that DLP term over there, but they've kind of not haven't taken out. So the new feature, and I'll show you an example of the one I already have over here. This is where when you come in, you go ahead and give it a name, and then after that, you have this new feature, which is the three categories, because before there was only business and non-business, but now there is also blocked. So the question arises that how does this new blocked work? So now it's actually pretty easy. When I come in over here, I go ahead and I can first break it down into the different categories that I want. Do I want the scope to be in all environments, add multiple environments, or exclude it to certain environments? I'm gonna pause and talk about that for a minute. This is where the KISS method that I use is first, I keep one DLP from my entire environment level. And the best and the easiest way, which I've seen this done again and again by a lot of people, is break it down by Microsoft versus non-Microsoft. That way it just helps to kind of categorize which ones are most going to be used and which ones are also safe, because as long as it's in the Microsoft realm or the group, then they all fall under the entire same security and compliance and governance. It works over there. Now, there are exceptions to that as well. I'll give you an example. Salesforce connector, I've seen that again and again approved as part of the business category as well, because it's tied into so much of apps which are used by enterprise level people or by HR, financial services, and it's kind of tied into so many places. So that is the decision that you as a department will have to make, is that if is Salesforce or any other connectors, do you still classify that as a business connector? And that decision that you have to make over there. So I'll actually make an example of, I come back over here to the policies, I create a new policy, I'll say a test, I come in here, and now you've got the option to go ahead and select and pick any one of them. Because by default, if you notice, all 353 connectors right now, by default, they fall into the non-business category over there. And this is by design. This is not something which has happened to my tenant. This is by design and by default, which is going to happen to you. So a little tidbit I'm going to throw out over there is that if any of you companies build custom connectors for your homegrown application, the moment you deploy that custom connector, it's going to fall right over here in that non-business category. So you'll have to come in, then pick that custom connector, and then decide where you want to move it to. So this is where I come in, and then after that I go ahead and select it, and then you see, do I want it to move to the business one, or do I want to go and block it? It's literally that simple. I cannot tell you how many times I've spoken to people when I do my mentoring sessions with them, or when I help them out, I have a call. There's so many apps deployed in their tenant over there. People are just, blasting, having a great time, being productive and everything. And at the end of, and after I'm done helping them, at the end of the call, I say, hey, how's your DLP going on? I haven't set that up yet. And I said, that's usually the first thing that you want to do. In fact, I tell people that even if your company hasn't started using Power Platform or Power Apps, but if you have that, even if your license, just go ahead and set this up and keep it very simple. But set this up, because it literally takes all of 15 minutes. If it takes more time, that time, the extra time spent always builds on deciding which connectors it is. But do this even if you're not 100% using Power Apps yet. Get this done first. That's where the DLP was on the top of the list over there. All right. Okay, so that's what I said. Went ahead and used the KISS method for that, and then I also showed you the new feature now to block the tenant over there. So now the next thing I want to talk about is how to go ahead and the creation of the access of the environments, and then also consider allowing the trial environments, and the important to maintain the capacity. Now, a little question. In fact, this is a trick question that I ask people: is that tell me how many types of environments are there? And the most common response I usually get by the people who've been using Power Apps for months, sometimes years, is I get the number 5 a lot. All said and done, there's actually 6, because very few people actually know about the support one. And what the support is actually if you put in a ticket to Microsoft for an environment of yours which is misbehaving, the support is the one where the Microsoft support team, they can take a snapshot of your environment and then rename that snapshot to support. So that's not something you and I can create. That's something they can create, and you will see that name called as support. So that's actually the 6th one. Whenever I throw this question out in events and I'm giving out swag, I'm good with 5 as long as you know 5. But so far nobody's told me 6, because the support is actually a 6th tenant. So now you already know more than the average person over there. But let's talk about creating the environments, and let me jump back into my tenants over here. So when you come over here, and let me jump back to my test tenant over here. So when you come over here, first of all, you need to have access to even use, you need to have the Power Platform access to go ahead and use this, create the tenants over here. And when you come in, you got to be at the Power Platform admin level. You come into the Power Platform admin, and I actually already have that. So, and over here, this is the option to go ahead and create an environment. Now, when a new environment is created, and I'll have to go back to my one, because mine's actually a production one. When I come over here, and when you have the option to create environments, there's always 2 things which happen. First thing is I can come over here in environments, I can select any of the environment, or I can come to the top right, which is settings, and here I click on Power Platform settings. Here is the first setting that you want to see, because there's 2 options available. First is everyone can either create an environment or a production environment, or everyone can create a trial environments. Now, this is a decision that the Power Platform admin has to make, is that anybody who's got all the accesses and permissions and subscriptions all ready to get in and come over here, you need to decide, what does this everyone have access to do? And I'll share with you some of the common trends that I've seen around. There's always extremes. One extreme is, nope, I'm going to go ahead and block everything, and only the admins can do, make the decisions. The second set of people I've seen is they say that definitely the production environments, I'm going to only break that down to the specific admins. But the trial one, I'm going to let everybody use that. And here's why. Trial one is only allowed for 30 days. Trial one doesn't go ahead and consume any of your, storage capacities, any of your logging or anything. Doesn't use any of that. And trial is only drilled down to the person who created it. Only that person has access to it. So since it doesn't, consume any of your power admins bandwidth, it doesn't consume any of that. It still ties into the DLP that we just created because it's still bound by that same DLP. And then after 30 days, it goes ahead and gets deleted. Many people I've seen, I said, I'm fine with the trial environments. People can go and create it, and then it just either the person deletes it or eventually gets deleted after that. So I've seen combinations of both of them, but this is the most common one I've seen, is that definitely for the governance sake, go ahead and block production environments such that only these specific admins make that. But then everybody else can also go ahead and give them access to create trial environments. Again, this is what I've seen a lot of other companies do. You might be in one of those extreme areas as well, is that I'm going to allow everybody to do everything. Or you might be on the other area saying that, nope, I'm going to block everything. And granted, if somebody wants a trial environment, I'll create that trial environment for them, and then they can give them access. So these are the scenarios, but that's one of the first things that I wanted to show them is the type of the environments over there. Let me see what else. Yep, and we talked about that. On the environment side, I talked about who actually are the Power Platform owners. But this is the key thing over there. Key thing is when you come in, just to give you a recap. You come into the Power Apps, go to the gears, the settings, click on the Admin Center. You come and click on the Admin Center. You don't have to select any of your environments. Just go up to the top right settings, which is that gear icon, and over there you click on the Power Platform settings, and then these are the two. By default, everyone has access to do everything. Well, everyone has access over here, but then you make the decision, however you see fit for your company over there. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, I need to show you that the refresh cadence. This is a very new feature that came out. In fact, I just saw it. It's less than a month ago. I'm glad I noticed that because I want to show that to you. So back over here, I'm going to click on one of my environments, and I'll click my production one, and I'll go and just click on it. And then once I click on it, I'm going to go ahead and click on edit over here, not the settings, this edit. When I click on edit, refresh cadence is a new functionality that came on. So let's talk about what we can do with this. I click on this, and there's actually a good description. So we click on that description, and it's not allowing me to. All right, there you go. This is the documentation for it, but in the documentation, there's a very important note over here. And just so I can zoom in, you'll see that note. It says, by default, environments are automatically in the frequent cadence. And what frequent does is it will receive updates once a week. So whenever apps are published, they will receive the corresponding runtime version over there. Moderate cadence is for environments we're creating, and for environments which will receive updates only once a month. Now, that is important, again, for these mid-sized to large companies because they are very federated in deployment and the policies and everything. And if you fall into those categories as well, then all your production environments, you can go ahead and put that as moderate. But all your sandbox environments or non-production one environments, you can put that as frequent. So you can actually see those new features coming out, firsthand experience it. And then if everything is good, go ahead and turn on the production one as and let that wait, because in the next month it'll come out in the moderate anyway. I mean, it'll come out in the production anyway, but you've already had a taste of it on these other tenants over there. So I recommend that on the production side, switch it over to moderate. That way you don't see these new features come out immediately, but have a few of your environments with that frequent one, so you get a taste of these new features that are already coming out, and then you can plan accordingly for that. All right. So I'm glad we saw that because that's a very important thing that you need to know of. Okay, so let's keep moving forward, and I want to make sure I cover as much as I can. So Office 365 security groups and security roles. This is very important for going ahead and giving environment level access and also giving app level access. Now, there's two types of groups. There is the Office 365 security groups, and then there's security roles. Security roles is something which is tied only to the Power Platform, very specifically the dynamics, I mean, the CDS and the entities and the tenants over there. That is where you go ahead and create your roles. And what the roles does is it can help define if the person should only have access to, can you create a full environment, or can they only create apps with entities, so on and so forth. When you want to drill down that level of permissions, you do that using security roles. But when you want to, talk about just giving access to the app or access to the environment, you do that using security groups. And I actually just had an example over here, which is right here. See, in my production one, I went ahead and created a security group over here, not a role, it's a security group, and I call that as Power Apps Production Environment Security Group. So you see that naming convention I came up? It's very important that somewhere in this naming convention you tell that this security group, this is a Azure AD or Office 365 security group tied to Power Apps. Therefore, that's why for the security group, I'm using the prefix, or you can use a postfix, Power Apps. Because if you go to your Office 365 and look at the security groups, there could be hundreds or thousands over there. And therefore, in that, you should know which one of them is Power Apps. And so for the security group, it's best that you put in the prefix over there for, and because that way you know it is for Power Apps. Now, when you come down to an app level, and I'll see if I have one for an app. All right, so I'll go over here. I'll just randomly pick an app. Now, for an app, I can select that and I can do share. In the share, you can go ahead and add a name over here, and it says that as people and owners, you can go ahead and give a group, a group name over here. Now, in the app, you don't have to go ahead and put in the security role with the prefix over there, because over there you already know that this is Power Apps level, and this is for the security roles. In fact, let me make it a little bit more easier and see if I have one with a 10 environment. So let me see. If I don't, you basically get the idea. I open up the app, come over here, and I'm editing it. Don't need to do that. Let's just click on the share piece again. So if this one, the app actually had entities over here, then it would tell me which are the security roles that have access, which can be used for those entities. And because that security role is tied only to the Power Apps and the entities over there, for that one, you don't have to put the Power Apps prefix. It kind of helps with the naming convention. Now, I want to pause over here and say that going this deep when it comes to the Power Apps, accessing basically just the Power Apps, and also going ahead and accessing the, accessing the environment and accessing the Power App, and you go this tool level granular, it does get a little bit of a challenge doing an administrative work on that, because if you've got security roles assigned for an entity, any single time that you've created a new entity for that app, for a new feature, a new enhancement, whatever, you got to make sure that that new entity is also a part of that security role over there. And so that's a little bit more administrative works that you're doing. Now, granted, it makes security really tight, because now people not only do they have access to the environment, but you can also make it granular such that when they're in the environment, I can make it down access to the, make the security granular right down to the app level. And you don't have to do it manually. You don't have to log into the app, or you don't have to go and add people, remove people. It's all by adding and removing on the groups over there. So it does help, but you just make sure that when times comes to troubleshoot, or when people go and say, hey, I'm accessing the app, but the data isn't showing up, that's when you know that, oh, they have access to the environment and the app, but they're not part of the correct security role. So you gotta keep all this in mind, because it can get confusing really fast. So I always tell that when you are making granular level permissions to keep things very secure, be prepared for it, have it very documented, so you know what people need access to, which groups they need to be dropped into, group security roles, in order for that app to be fully functional. All right, just keep that in mind, because it can get a little bit confusing at times. Okay, know your capacity definitely helps in future planning, and helps in the data loss prevention. So what I mean by that, it's right down to, and let me go to my production one, because you can see it over there. So as a Power App admin, you come over here and you can see analytics, and in analytics, you are able to see all of this information. You're able to see right down to how many have been active users. More importantly, you can go ahead and also get analytics about how much are the data storages that you're being used over there. entity usage. How is that being used? Are you slowly getting close to finishing, all that information over there, or do you need more storage capacity? Which are the apps that are utilizing all of that? You need to keep an eye on that because that is your responsibility over there. And there are some tools which will help you, and I'll talk about that in the end. But this is going to be your responsibility of the analytics piece, right down from common data service. You can go ahead and take a look at from the Power Automate standpoint. You can take a look at it from the Power App standpoint over there. But keep track of this because this is going to be something that you need to help, and it helps not in just the future planning. When I say future planning is, you have now so much data left. So you may have 10 gigs. I mean, you say you have 6 gigs or 7 gigs left. On an average, each environment takes up 1 gig. So you know that you've got enough capacity for 5 more environments. So you know how to plan accordingly as well. If there is a need for, say, 6 environments, then that's the time for you to go ahead and see how much more, any cleanup that needs to be done by some people. Then you can do some gauge to see how many department has more apps. And it helps in the DLP as well, because if you know more, know from a capacity standpoint how many more environments you're going to need, then then you can plan accordingly. Does that environment need its own DLP, or does it, can it comply within the existing, DLP that you have using that KISS method over there? Okay, I do want to talk about this optional self-service over here. And the self-service, it was originally introduced on the Power BI side, but it came up on the Power Apps as well. What this does is it gives you the flexibility that if you have not been given the Power Apps license by your company, then you have the flexibility to literally use your credit card, buy a license, and then you're automatically assigned your own environment. There was a mixed feelings on this one. Some people were dead against, no, this is a bad thing. It's a huge security violation. And then the other people were saying, no, this is great. So let me tell you both of those things. The people who were concerned about this, it was a valid thing to be concerned about because they've gone ahead and come up with an idea of how to maintain the administration and things like that, planning of the environments, naming conventions of the environments. Should it be down to the geographic location, or should it be down to the department and location? They do all this planning, and then this thing comes out, and they say, okay, now users say, I don't care about departments. I'm just going to go and build my own environment. That is why these set of people were so concerned. So Microsoft did hear to them, and they said that, okay, we will provide you a option to go ahead and disable that. You just have to run a PowerShell script for that. And there's a full page available on that. You got to go ahead and download the PowerShell module for it, and it runs on your local Windows 7 machine. And with that, you can go ahead and disable it. But the key thing is don't get too concerned about this if you've set up your DLP. Because regardless of somebody in a company goes ahead and buys, it does a whole self-service and they buy their own license and they have their own environment, it still has to abide by the DLP that you set up over there. So again, now you know why DLP was top on the list, because the moment you set that up, you've already set your safety and your security standards right at the top. And if such a situation did come up where people have gone ahead and set up their own environments, or they purchase their environments, they are still bound by your security. All right. Now, I'll tell you the other end. The other type of companies where there'll be an umbrella company, and then in the umbrella company, there are these subset companies, which are still fully standard companies, but they fall under the umbrella company. And the umbrella company says, I'm just going to buy the basic licenses that you need. And then after that, if you need more, you can go and buy more. So for those scenarios, this thing works perfect. So there's a very legitimate reason why Microsoft came up with this idea, specifically for those scenarios over there. But then if there are these other scenarios where, for legitimate reasons there are concerns, then for that you can go ahead and disable it using PowerShell. But for either scenarios, set up that DLP first. That's why it's so important to do that. Okay, so let me jump over to some of the analytics piece that I want to talk about. Azure Application Insights, that was actually announced in February. And the neat thing about the Application Insights is it gives you flexibility to know more information, not just at the holistic app approach, but inside the app approach. So let me show you what that means. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here, and I actually have a quick app available. It's the app that I opened, which was this navigation app. But before we go in, let's take a look to see the analytics piece available. So I selected that app, and out of the box, the analytics that it provides is pretty good. I mean, I'm already saying that, take a look at this first. If this satisfies your needs, then you're already in good condition. And what I want to show you is that, right off the bat, and if you notice that you saw the Power BI the watermark over there, so this is running on Power BI, and it gives you information. I mean, right down to telling me this app that I have, how often was it used? It was used on the web player, which is the Windows browser, or it was used on the iPhone over there, how often it was used, when was the app launched, how were the daily users, shows from the usage standpoint, shows from a performance standpoint over here. Just again, it's loading data, says how fast are the screens coming up, how fast are just the screens coming, how fast are the screens with data connections over there, loading times, things like that. And then it also talks about the location. Now, the location, that's been the one piece which has been a little flaky sometimes because I don't live in Kansas. In fact, this is a test app that I've been using. I live over here in North Carolina area, but for some reason, this app has always shown default location is right in central of US over here. Maybe there's a data center over there or something, but this is the only piece I would say which is not 100% accurate, but everything else is pretty accurate. Now, if you've noticed, this is right down to the holistic app approach. A holistic app approach. It doesn't tell me right inside the app, and that's the extra information which you can get through the Azure Analytics over here. So the beauty of that is you come in basically to the Power Apps. To Azure over here. In Azure, either you or your Azure admin comes into the app, does a search for application insights. It's already there. You click on that, and then you go ahead and create a new. When you create a new one, you add a service for it. You get the application inside. You go and put all of this information in. Pick your licensing, whatnot. But you get what is called as an ID. It is important that you set up for each and every app. You set up a application inside for each of them because of all the logging that it does. So for each app, you set its own Azure application insight service, one service of app insights for each app. You want to do that at that level because the logging is what's going to help you for that. So once you go ahead and get that app ID, you basically come to the Power App, and not on the home screen, but on the app over here, there is a place to go ahead and put in the instrumentation key. I mean, they've actually planned this together, the Power Apps people, that you get the key from there, you go ahead and drop it over here, and now the two start talking to each other, and it works really well. Now, remember I just showed you of the out-of-the-box functionality, which is so good, but it's a very thing which is at the app level. So let's take a quick look at what the Azure Insights does over here. So I come down into Power Apps, Animation Insight, and I'm going to now look at it. Let's take a quick peek on some of the users over here, okay? Or actually sessions. Sessions is a good one. So I come to the sessions place over here, and I'm going to go into, say, let's go to the last 30 days. In fact, it's already picking up the ones that I did. So in the last 30 days, these are the number of times that the apps were used, and then this was the date and time. Again, this is not the new piece, right? We already saw that it can be done out of the box. All right, so if that's not very amusing, then what about these things over here? It's in fact, it's telling me that it was used in the United States, the operating systems, different versions of the browser. Again, you're saying, Daniel, that's not new. I just saw that. I'm not getting this wow factor feeling that you're showing me. So I said, okay, you got a legitimate point. Now let me show you the session timelines. So I'm going to click on that and watch this. Each of those events over here, it's very accurate because its location is accurate. In fact, that's the location of where I live over here. Okay? That's pretty accurate. But now when I go ahead and click on see the users actually is the one I want to go to. If I go and click on the users, it shows me all this information. Actually, it's the user flows. On the user flows area, it shows me the breakdown of how all this is working. And here, if I can get a better view, see that? Oh, slid away. This is something that we don't get in Power Apps because it tells me the flow inside the app. Like, okay, the main bulk of the flow is when the session started and it goes to the main initial screen. So that's the main flow. That's why you see this pipeline is so thick. But after that, it's saying that, okay, most of the time when the session is started, people go to the home screen and then they jump to the check-in screen. Sometimes they go ahead and end the screen right there. So it shows you where the most traffic is going. From here, it's able to go ahead and say, okay, there, people usually jump from this screen, they jump to the swag screen, or they go ahead and jump to their home screen, basically showing inside the app level in detail, word for word, and it's even getting the information because these are actually my screen names over there. That's how detailed it goes over here. And if I go into the sessions place over there, if I can get that information, get more on the insights, the information that I want to show. Let's see if I can grab that. See here, that's what I was looking for. Is write down in detail with the timestamps, already the date over there, but with the timestamps, is telling me how the users, that specific user located in that location, spent 655 milliseconds. I mean, 655 milliseconds ago. This is how much time that user spent in each of your screens inside the app. That is how detailed the Azure Application Insight goes. Something that your Power Apps out of the box doesn't give, Azure Application Insights does that. So this is pretty neat. In fact, this to me was already a fantastic way to go ahead and know that I can actually take this and start improving my apps. Because consider a scenario where you actually have a very important section in the app, right? You want people to know that, be aware of it, but somehow you've got so many screens and the flow of the app is not taking them to that screen over there. Now, granted, you can put it in the home screen or you can direct them right there. But if you've got a flow process in your app, jumping from one screen to the other screen, this is how you can analyze to see, okay, this is how the flow is working, and now I can plan accordingly for the next level of app. Okay.
Daniel?
Yeah.
When you were on that the out of the box Power BI display, it looked like on the location that you could drill into the United States in there. Can you just see if you can drill into that dot? Just right click on the dot there.
Yep, you can. It gives you that functionality, but it's in a completely different state.
Yeah, I just saw that it had a hierarchy in there. I just wasn't sure whether it would actually drill into your state there. So I just saw the button and I wanted to see.
Yep, no, that's fine. I mean, that's a good point that you made. Yeah, so that was on the Azure Application Insights. A couple of three important things, since I don't want to spend too much time on that, is it falls under the bigger umbrella called Azure Monitor Service, and Azure Application Insights is one section of that. It is already going ahead and capturing all of this data at very detailed level, and then Application Insights goes ahead and takes all that information, and then you are able to go ahead and get the alerts, go ahead and connect it through REST API. In fact, through the Application Insights, it already has the Power BI connection for that. It gives you the query for the Power BI. So you open up your Power BI, and then in the Power BI, you go ahead and make a connection, not with an existing connection. You just put in a place where you put in the query. You copy that query which they have there, and you paste it, and you already got the data. You're not pulling in the full data. You're just connecting to the Azure Application Insights. And that flexibility, that gives you the direct access to all the data which is being stored, so you can make your own custom Power BI reports over there. Very sweet, very great process over there for that. And then, as you know, these were the main things that we looked at: is the session counts, performance counter, locations. And by the way, this was the most accurate one. All of this was able to be loaded over there. So that was basically our application insights over there. All right, so I'm going to go up over here. And the requirements, I'm not going to spend too much time on that, because the billing is, I guess, it's not about the cost of the billing, but how the billing goes. It's not per user base, but it's how much data is being stored. That's how the cost is over there. Okay, I'll briefly touch on the other Azure service, and it's called, as you will hear the term PIM, P-I-M, but this is what it stands for, is Privileged Identity Management. And the thing about privileged identity management is actually it's not a new thing. It's been there for a long time. And PIM has been actually being used by quite a few people, or other products like the Exchange Online, Teams, SharePoint. What it does is it basically gives you the flexibility that you have already allocated certain people that they are going to be the eligible for administrator role. So I'll give you an example. In this one, me as Daniel Christian, I am eligible to be a Power Platform administrator, but it is not active right now. So if you go over here, it is not active. It's only eligible. So if I want Power Platform role, admin role, I come in over here, I click on activate. I go ahead and put in a request that this is if you have a ticketing system, you put the ticketing system name over there, you put a ticketing number, you can put a reason. It says now I'm going to need that access. Here, you can go ahead and send it as an approval to your manager. You can take care of that on the settings place over there. And once your manager approves it, all you have to do is go ahead and log out, log back in. The logging out and logging back in is very important. And once you log back in, you're already automatically assigned the Power Platform admin role. And the max that you can be assigned is 8 hours. But this is what you most commonly know as break glass access, is that you now have the access to do, senior administrative work, but when and you only have that allocated for 8 hours. And if you want it, great, you're eligible, already eligible for that. So you can always log into Azure, go ahead and get yourself that, again, 8 hours or more access. But you don't always have it, and this is a very important, privilege. Large enterprise companies, especially those which are healthcare, financial services, legal departments, they need something like that. Is you don't always have full access, but you are eligible for it because that's already been given to you. And if a request approval is, for a manager's needed, that's also built into it. So these were the two Azure services I want to touch on: is the PIM, Privileged Identity Management, and also the monitoring services over there. So I kind of went through this a little quickly because we're running out of time over here. I do want to talk about the free tools that are available over here. Um, yeah, we'll talk about. So the Admin Center Analytics is the one that I already showed you. Power Automate admin flows are some really neat ones. I do want to spend at least 2 seconds talking about that. So when you come to Power Automate, you click on templates over there. If you just type in admin, you will see that there's all these flexibilities to go ahead and get these admin services. And they're scheduled, which means that you can set it up that I want you to run these flows once a day, once an hour, once in every 30 minutes. And it goes ahead and gets you a list, and you can get this as email notifications. You can go save that on a SharePoint or a CDS. But it gets you a list of all the new Power Apps, flows, connectors, anything that were built accordingly. These are all the connectors, I mean, the templates that are already available on the flow side to give the admins this updated information so that if the admin is not near a computer, he or she is already getting this information as quickly as he or she wants over there. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about was XRM Toolbox. XRM Toolbox is a free tool that was originally available only for Dynamics 365, but now they've also enhanced that for Power Apps. It is a free tool. You download it, install it, make the connection to each of your Dynamics over there. One of the first things I immediately noticed was its ability to tell you a count of how many items are there in a CDS entity. This is something you can't do right now. I mean, if I go into CDS, I look at an entities, I only see a limited amount of entities, and I don't get a count over there. If I want to count, I got to export that data, maybe as a CSV or Excel, open it up, and then see it, or you got to build some fancy Power BI report for that. But now using the XRM Toolbox, right out of the box, you just connect to it. You got to connect to your environment, click on the get count over there, and then you say get counts, and it tells you how many counts you are because it's talking directly to the entity. So and this is just one piece of it. There are other tools available over here. In the tools, you can go into Power Apps Checker. Security role, the privileged discovery is another great place because it can go and tell you how many security roles you are, how many users are in that security role. Right from there, you can go ahead and add and remove people from the security role. So I highly recommend at least getting familiar with the XRM Toolbox because it was originally for Dynamics 365, but now they've gone ahead and updated that for the Power Apps as well. All right, I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to quickly jump on, just give you a few updates. You might already be aware of the Center of Excellence or COE Starter Kit. I recommend that if you've already been using Power Apps for, say, you're into it for 6 months and you're seeing a growth or explosion of apps or a growth of Power Apps, consider going and downloading the COE Starter Kit and at least testing it in your dev environments or your dev tenants. Because what it does is it comes with a full solution. It comes with flows. It goes ahead and comes with this Power BI report. It comes with a Canvas app. And what it does is it gives you this big information of how updates on how many are your environments over there, where are they located, who are the top app makers over there. Same thing for the flow as well. How many flows do you have? Go ahead and get me all the top makers of the flows over there, cities and locations. And then you can drill down right at the environment level. You can drill down into the app level. And this tool is 100% free. And because they've given you like the open source, because they've given you the flow, they've given you the Power BI report, everything, you can go and tweak this after that. If you're already familiar with Power BI and you want to first add your company's branding over there, you want to add more slicers and things like that, you've got full access to this. So this is a pretty sweet tool, COE, Center of Excellence. Highly recommend that if you've already been, and the best number I can give is you've already been 6 months in and you're seeing apps in your production site and you started seeing growth of the app usage, you want to start focusing on this one, at least playing with it. The only tidbit which is also requested in the documentation for that is keep a separate environment for that, because it goes ahead and creates some new tools and functionalities, and it ties it down to that environment. All right, so the last two things I have is training for the Power Platform admins and rewarding the champions. So the training piece is a self-paced training for Power Platform admins, the Power Apps admins over there. This was introduced only a year ago, and one of the things I like about this is, besides the fact that I was able to pilot test it, is that they've come up in the training. There's a scenario where you're a new admin and there's already apps out there in production, and how do you handle that? That is part of this training as well, and that's the one thing I really liked. So, you go ahead and Bing for this, and you can download that self-paced training, and you can go ahead and at least go through that as admins over there. And the final thing is reward the champions. Champions are the people that you can find out in that power report that I showed you over there. You can see who are the top app makers, top flow makers. You can find them and then go ahead and reward them. And there's a reason how admins can use that is if you've rewarded the champions by having an open dialogue with them, they know what is the correct way to do things, which complies with the company policies, which goes in compliance with the DLPs, environment usage, and things like that. So you keep that open dialogue with them, and then as they go and mentor other people in your company, they are giving them the correct information. They're not making things up as you go, because they've had that direct dialogue with you. And now let them go ahead and share that information. They do mentoring with other line of businesses. They go ahead and share that on your internal social media apps like Yammer and Teams. That way, there's a good dialogue conversation going on. And then encourage them to be talkative in their internal social medias, and then reward them. You have to reward them. Let them go to the Power Platform Summits or the ambassadors and things like that. But you've got to find them, have an open dialogue with them, and definitely reward them. So all in all, these were the 10 things I covered. I know I've been 5 minutes over, so I don't have too much time on my Q&A over here. But I just wanted to point out that these 10 things will change depending on what point of this app, a Power Platform we are in. But I kind of want to give you a holistic approach of what are the 10 things that a Power Platform admin needs to be focused on. And I know I could have deep dived so much into that, but I've got quite a few videos. In fact, I've got a section on the Azure analysis, analysis services, the privileged identity management, and I'll deep dive more into that on my videos over there. But all in all, those were the 10 things that I want to talk about. And do we have any questions? Were there any?
Take a look here in the window here, Dan. Just one sec. You actually do have a few more minutes if there are a couple of things you want to
Okay.
talk about. The next presenter was going to start at 4:45. So if you have a few other things you want to add in, feel free.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, if other people have questions, do feel free to get them into the chat window so we can get them over to Daniel here too. So
yeah. So the one I can cover is Monitor. This was actually a feature that came out say about 3 months ago. It was in preview for a while, but it's actually out. So I want to talk about that because that's new. What the thing about Monitor is, and I'll take us to our production. Okay, so right here, this app that I'm using, I'm gonna come in first to the apps, and I need to get out to my apps area over here. And I'm going to go to my navigation app. That's the app name. And I'm going to click on Monitor. All right, that's the new functionality feature that's out. So in the Monitor over here, I've clicked on it. It takes me to this place over here, and everything is good. It is connected. I'm going to start saying play published app. I'll just close this so there's no confusion. Play published app. And what it does, and you'll see that it's doing a recording because it's monitoring the session. And now you can go ahead and do the same type of using that you're doing in the apps, same stuff, everything. But in this back end, it is doing some heavy logging over there. Now, the Power Platform admins are going to love this because there will be scenarios where you will have the makers of the apps reach out to you and say that, hey, I built this app and it is 100% working without any problems, goes to the end users, and they are having all these problems over there. I'm seeing things not working, what working, and you as an admin can sometimes be, I didn't build this app, so I really don't know where the problem is. I need that information. This is where you'll get that information, because you don't need to know all the formulas in the app. You don't need to know what is the logic in the app. You just need to know is at what point when that user is using it, am I having a lot of time spent away, and what's the why between that one click and this one click, there was such an extended duration over there. Once you know this information as a Power Platform admin or as the maker, you can narrow down to see where do I need to troubleshoot. So this monitor tool that came out, it was actually first announced at the Embass, and now it's come up, is officially released over here. Has actually become my new favorite really fast. When you go ahead and play it, it actually shows just like your team's recording shows that way, and that way it is showing that there is heavy logging going on, and the more you jump around and do things, it is capturing all of that, and then you can go ahead and export that or up and download it, and whatever you want to do, it works. It actually just works. Like, I'm glad we had some time because I wanted to show you this functionality. Very good. Its logging is very detailed, but these timestamps and its durations is very similar to that Azure analysis, the one that I showed you about, how it flows from which place to another one. Obviously, in that application insights, there's more nice graphs to it, but this is the raw data, and you're able to see where there are potential gotchas in that app over there. Cool. I'm glad we have that time to talk about that. PowerShell scripts, the only other thing is that if there's any times that you need to make bulk changes to the environments, adding more security roles or adding more environments, whatever, anytime we have to make bulk changes, they've given you the flexibility to do that through PowerShells as well. And one of the big flexibilities I know is anytime a new app is used by a new user, the first time they open the app, it will say that, do you want to access these connectors, like the SharePoint or Office 365 users? You can disable that through PowerShell scripts. Therefore, a new user doesn't have to approve that. It is by default approved, all using PowerShell scripts over there. Cool. So I can leave 5 minutes aside, see if anybody has any questions. Because all in all, these were the 10 things that we talked about.
Nice. If anybody does have any questions, to go ahead and use the hand raise functionality that's now available in Teams here, and that'll queue everybody up in the proper order here so I can get the questions answered. So now's the time to jump in if you got any. Oh, looks like Luca has a question. Go ahead, Luca. Luca, you're on mute, or you accidentally put your hand up, one or the other.
Well, I was going to type in, but yeah, actually I can just ask it. So I would like to understand, how do you position the gateway administration, considering that from the Power Platform admin console, I do see that is on sharing with Power BI.
All right, so you want to see how you set up the administration for the Power Platform admins. Did I get that correctly? Yep. All right, so there's so for that, let's go into the Office 365 Admin Center. And the best thing to do is actually look at the different types of the groups that are over there, actually in the users. No, actually we can go over here. So if I go to, say, Daniel Christian, active users, we can go look at Daniel users. There's some different types of security roles available. And the key thing about that security roles is right now there's only two different types. There's one for, there's a whole set just for the, let me come over here, manage roles. And I am not allowed because I'm not allowed. All right. So there's one set for Power BI, and there's the other set for Power Platform admins. That's the key thing. Power BI by itself is 100% independent, and then they have another section, a security role, just for the Power Platform admin. Power Platform admin encompasses all three: Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Power BI has its own set of security roles. So there's two different things over there. You gotta keep those different. So again, you come over here and it's grayed out for me. So let me see if I can try that quickly on my next tenant for you. That way I can actually show quickly, come in, and I'll actually show it to you. If not, we can even have the power, the Azure AD. So I come in over here, I can go to my users, I can go ahead and select some user. I think I've logged in enough to do that. Adele is the one, and I want to go ahead and, change the role. When I come over here to change the role, by default, this user has no role. You've got these big ones over here, but you can also go ahead and add these ones. And as you can see, Power BI admin is one full role by itself. Power Platform admin is another role by itself. So they've specifically done this. And the reason they did this is not because that's how they planned it. It's just how it worked out. Power BI was the first Power Platform, the big brother, like I call it. It was the first tool that came out. Then came out Power Apps and Flow, and then came out the Power Virtual Agent. So they combined the three into Power Platform admin. But Power BI has its own role over there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then that's how it's also it ties into the privileged identity management, is because you can make people eligible for any of these. They just don't have it. You do it through the PIM, the privileged identity management, and that works for all of these. Cool. Good question.
Cool. Thanks, Luca. Anyone else have any questions? Well, awesome. Thank you very much, Daniel, for offering to present when we were looking for presenters. We very much appreciate it. It was a very interesting session. Nice to keep mixing our sessions between the various components of the Power Platform. So thank you very much.
Yep. You're welcome. And remember, we have lots of citizen developers, but we need those innovative administrators as well. So keep that in mind. And major thumbs up to you if you want to be one.